Tomlin looking to end a playoff drought that he hasn't seen him win a playoff game since 2016. So it's 8 years since a playoff win, 16 years since the Super Bowl win. If he loses, LaShawn McCoy made an interesting comp on the facility. Take a listen.
I truly think that Coach Tomlin is one of the best coaches in football. But I think it's time in Pittsburgh, I think it should be over, right, if they don't win, right? No, but hear what I'm saying. I think he goes to another team, a new start, an Andy Reid new start.
Okay. Could Saturday be last game in Pittsburgh?
Look, I actually think LaShawn makes some sense. Like, I think if Tomlin went somewhere, like if Chicago could get Tomlin, they need somebody to build a culture, create a culture, and you've got a quarterback that can do stuff on his own. I don't think you have to, set him up
place.
like other, but just the system he could thrive in, I think could be great. So that said, I don't think that Steelers going to get rid of him. I mean, they don't do that. Chuck Noll was 23 years, Cowher was 15 years, and now Tomlin's, I think, 18. But they're not going to get rid of Mike Tomlin, so I don't see this happening. But I think it could be good for him as a fresh start somewhere.
So I think there's an argument he's third best coach in football. I think number one is undeniable. It's Andy Reid. In my opinion, number two is undeniable. I think it's Sean McVay. And then I think there's 7 or 8 guys that you can argue are in that next top 5. I know I'm a Kyle Shanahan guy. Wild's not as much. Kevin O'Connell's, needs to win a playoff game before you put him in that group. But
that'd be good.
Moving. But I mean, my point is he's only been there 3 years.
I know.
But both Harbaugh's, Sean Payton, Mike Tomlin is in that LaFleur, sure. Dan Campbell's got to be in there. So he's in that group. I'm not sure exactly where. It's kind of more what your taste is. Where I like what Shady is saying is it was the best thing for both parties, Philly moving on from Andy. Because it had grown. Now, Andy had a down year that Tomlin hasn't had, but he's still a great coach. Mm-hmm. But it was like, yeah, we probably reached our pinnacle with you here relatively early. And it was obviously great for Andy. And even people like, well, yeah, it was great for Andy because he got Patrick Mahomes. Man, he turned the Chiefs from 2 wins to the playoffs immediately, and that helped his rep. Like getting Alex Smith, to where he led the league in passer rating. That helped his rep. And so I think a lot of the Mike Tomlin stuff, even though they're very different coaches, is similar to Kyle Shanahan in that they get further with the quarterbacks they have at their disposal than most other coaches could, but then can't get over the hump. For Kyle, it's been Super Bowl. For Tomlin, it's just, winning playoff games, and then that own success gets used against them. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, Tomlin keeps losing these playoff games, but most coaches, I think, would win 6 games with some of these teams that he drags to the playoffs. But I think he hasn't shown the ability to find the quarterback. So if you could find a place where the quarterback's already there, obviously I think that'd be good for him. But I agree with Brew. I don't think.
Okay. Let's talk about this. I think, first off, it's just so funny that Nick mentions Andy Reid and how quickly he was able to turn around the Kansas City Chiefs and how they're the best coach. But, I'll leave that be. With the Steelers and Mike Tomlin. So listen, I understand this whole idea of needing a fresh start and all of that and moving on, but that's more of a facade, smoke and mirrors, and random public perception. If Andy Reid is truly the best coach, which I actually think he is, then the Eagles letting him go just because you reached a peak or reached what you perceive to be, you need a fresh start. No, unless Andy Reid needed to become a different coach to unlock that, sure, but I don't think that's what's happened. It's just these things take time. And Andy Reid did the best that he could with the Philadelphia Eagles because of the team around him and the resources around him. He had Donovan McNabb and Vic at the end of his career, and I forget the other people, but if he had a better quarterback, I forget something happened. There was something that came out recently was like the Eagles could have been in a position for Andy Reid to get Andrew Luck. That would have changed everything. Just like if Andy Reid continue to kind of go through all the different teams with the Philadelphia Eagles. And a few years later, he's like, well, I want Patrick Mahomes. So it just would have changed things. So I really disagree that if you believe that Mike Tomlin is truly like the third best coach in the NFL, then you don't say, oh yeah, you got to move on from him. It's good for both teams. No, I just wholeheartedly disagree with that. Greatness is greatness no matter where you are. If the Steelers were doing something to hold back Mike Tomlin, then sure. Or no matter how great Mike Tomlin is, the Steelers need something that he can't offer them, then I guess sure. But I don't know, is it up to Mike Tomlin to find the quarterback? Should that really be his responsibility? I'm not so sure about that. I'm not so sure about that at all. So, I mean, you talk about Mike Tomlin's inability to kind of win or have playoff success, and I get it. I really do, because at the end of the day, you could have all these winning seasons during the regular season, but like it's about playoffs. It's about winning playoff games, about winning Super Bowls, and so I do think that the pressure should be there. But like, can we give this guy like a great quarterback? Like, if anything, if the Steelers need to do something, they could do something similar to what the Eagles have done, where they're like, hey, we're going to find the OC. We're going to hire him. We're not going to leave it up to you. We're going to take control. You're great at defense. You're great at culture. You are a man amongst boys. You are great at leading that charge. But we need some help offensively. So we're going to go get the quarterback, and we're going to go get that OC. And you make a play. Like, you got to find Andy Reid's version of Spags. That's really what you need. You need Dan Campbell's Ben Johnson. You need that other side of the ball. But really the best example is Andy Reid and Spags. I mean, Andy Reid needs Spags. He needs that great defensive coordinator to make sure that side of the ball is taken care of. Someone that he can trust. When Spags goes to Andy and says, yo, man, I really need another corner, or hey, we're lacking, we need this. Andy's like, all right, I got you. I unconditionally trust you from the moon and back. That's what Mike Tomlin needs from an offensive perspective. He needs that guy who's like, yo, we need a different quarterback. We can't do this with this. Hey, man, we need to draft someone on the O-line because I cannot establish the run in a way that I need. And Mike Tomlin's like, got it. Let's do it. He needs that collaborative relationship. So I would rather the Steelers try to do that first before they just like move on from Mike Tomlin. Get him a quarterback. Get him a legitimate, real starting quarterback in his prime. Combine that with an actual offensive coordinator who knows what he's doing, like a Cliff Kingsbury. Like they could have made a play for Cliff Kingsbury and they didn't. And get the quarterback. Get the quarterback. However you have to. Since you keep winning games and you're not drafting at the bottom, you got to find a way how to do it. I mean, would it have been possible for them to move up in the draft? Again, it's hard to say. But that's where what the Steelers have to do. They got to upgrade at quarterback. Get a legitimate answer from an offensive coordinating standpoint. And there you go. And if you want to blame Mike Tomlin for that, then I understand that. But again, I don't know exactly how some of these decisions are made within the Steelers organization and how collaborative it is. Like Nick Sirianni did not pick Fangio and Kellen Moore. That was Howie Roseman. That was the right decision. Now the Eagles are a top team in the NFL. Like, that matters. That matters. Howie Roseman decided to say, we're going to draft Jalen Hurts. We're going to move on from Carson Wentz. We're going to let go of Doug Peterson. We're going to hire Sirianni. So, again, these things have to be collaborative. It can't just be all or nothing, all on just one person. The Kansas City Chiefs have an awesome GM, an awesome defensive coordinator, along with Andy Reid. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes. So, I think you got to figure out how much power and control does Mike Tomlin have over personnel, over coaching staff, roster, etc., the draft, free agency. Figure that out. Get to the true, source of that. And I think you got to get the best offensive mind that you can. And you got to combine that with a great quarterback in his prime, or developing a quarterback, a 22-year-old rookie. Like it's got, and I don't think it's Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. Because that you're just trying to squeeze as much juice as you can out of it. You're just trying your best to be like, can we make Justin Fields work? Is there still enough juice in Russ from before? And even then, it's not like they really made moves offensively, in free agency or the draft. They could have gotten Derrick Henry. They could have gotten Saquon Barkley. I mean, they could be making moves. A couple years ago, they could have made a play for A.J. Brown. They could have made a play for Tyreek Hill. Like they're not doing any of these other aggressive offensive moves. And that's what hurts them as well. So I just don't know if this all falls on Tomlin unless Tomlin is the one who's really pulling all the strings. And if he is, rather than let him go, pull back on some of his power. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers? I do understand the question where it's like, loss versus Ravens mean Tomlin's done with the Steelers. I mean, it's a tough loss to lose to your bitter division, your divisional rival in the playoffs, right? Like, especially if it's like not, competitive, like it's a tough spot to be in, especially after having, multiple straight playoff appearances without a win. But let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.